Thanks, Riaz. Good morning. Vancouver Police are out with another warning for local drug users after they were called out to deal with 11 overdoses yesterday alone. All of the overdoses were located on the downtown east side, but none of them were fatal. The specific cause of the overdoses have yet to be determined, but the suspected drug appears to be purple, and it may be fentanyl related. A report into the overdose death of a Coquitlam man at a private addiction treatment center has cleared the facility of any wrongdoing. 20-year-old Brandon Jansen died from a fentanyl overdose at the Sunshine Coast Health Center in Powell River earlier this year. At the time, the CEO says there were restrictions about the use of naloxone, and the center wasn't aware about temporary exemptions for patients to use Suboxone. It's a drug that curbs opioid cravings. In the healthcare reports, RCMP say Jansen got the drugs from another patient, and a family member brought in supplements with an illicit substance.
Had we had naloxone, had we been armed with the tools that we needed, safe tools, safe medical tools, that based on this report that says that Brandon died at 4:45 and that we know what time we found him, that we had time. If we'd had that naloxone, we could have saved Brandon potentially.
It's devastating. You know, my son died there. The CEO never reached out to me, never offered condolences, and never invited me to this, and now is insinuating that I, who was the only family member that visited Brandon at the treatment center, that I would have brought him illicit substances when I was the one that paid every dollar to put him there.
A coroner's inquest into Brandon Jansen's death will begin in January. A BC Supreme Court judge has reserved a decision surrounding the future of a tent city on Vancouver's downtown east side. The city has been seeking an injunction to evict these homeless campers from a vacant lot on West Hastings Street between Abbott and Carroll. The ruling is now expected to be made by the end of the week. Vancouver Police have been called to the property dozens of times since these campers moved in over the summer. The Pivot Legal Society says the city has an obligation to keep people safe. It says closing the camp would force people onto the streets because the city's shelters are full.
We've asked the court to protect the camp because it is safer than other options that currently exist, because we are in the middle of a housing crisis and people don't have somewhere to go, and because for many people simply going to an emergency shelter is not an option that is safe for them.
We do look out after each one another, and like she says, we have a lot of services around us that it makes it easier for us to look for places. We got BC Work just down the block from us. We got local washrooms. It's just somewhere safe to be. And like I said, we don't have to carry our belongings.
The City of Vancouver is trying to improve comfort and accessibility for people walking and cycling near Vancouver General Hospital. But it appears a proposed upgrade to the 10th Avenue corridor is going to take away more parking spaces. The city has now come up with a detailed plan. It'll be holding a series of open houses starting 1 week from today. Separated bike lanes along West 10th could mean the loss of up to 100 metered street parking spaces. But some of the curbside spaces could be turned into patient pickup and drop-off zones, and others could become car share parking spots. Final recommendations expected to go to council next spring.
The other big issue that we've been hearing and trying to respond to is the issue around vehicle access and parking. And so you'll see that in the proposals that we have right now that we're bringing out, we're actually showing some significant new construction of parking and some expansion of the passenger zones in the area.
Well, Airbnb has removed more than 100 Vancouver listings from its website. The move comes just weeks after the city announced it would be clamping down on short-term rentals. Airbnb calls it a proactive move and says the listings it removed are believed to be commercial operations. The popular website has been heavily criticized in Vancouver as the region deals with a significant lack of rental properties and a growing housing crisis. The city says 80 to 90% of all the short-term rentals in Vancouver are listed on Airbnb. Well, what will an empty home tax look like in Vancouver, and what will the effect of it be? Well, we may soon know the answer to both those questions. Greg Harper live this morning in Vancouver with the details. Greg?
Good morning, Kyle. Just outside City Hall this morning. It's possible today that city councillors will vote on an empty home tax, and this tax would be the first of its kind in Canada. The issue of vacant homes, it's been a big one here in the city. According to the City of Vancouver, there are nearly 11,000 vacant homes right now. City councillors will be voting on bringing in a tax that will be based on 1% of the property's assessed value, and it could be applied to properties that haven't been rented or lived in for at least 6 months. The goal, of course, is to free up more rentals in the city of Vancouver. But not only is a shortage of rentals an issue here in the city, the number of fires, too, at vacant homes. There's been nearly 30 of them in the city so far. Kyle?
Greg Harper at Vancouver City Hall. Thanks for that, Greg. Well, a tugboat that ran aground and sank near Bella Bella more than 4 weeks ago has now been lifted from the ocean floor. More than 100,000 liters of diesel spilled into the ocean as a result. The Healthsick Nation is concerned, saying it's been left to clean up the mess. Shoreline assessments and environmental monitoring will likely be needed. The First Nation says it has not received any support from any level of government. The Nathan E. Stewart ran aground on October 13th. The tug is owned by a Texas-based company.